A lot of times when we do these retro reviews, it can feel like we're trying to say like, oh, you have to keep in mind that this was made for a certain time and everything. And I think this film is proof that just because it's older, that doesn't mean that it's irrelevant or the themes aren't still themes that we can talk about today. In fact, this film might be more relevant now than it ever was back then.
Absolutely. It covers a lot of stuff like the toxicity of fandom, the danger of parasocial relationships. And there's the dark, seedy underside of being a celebrity and how you're often just treated as like a product, something to be consumed.
I think it's a great movie, great psychological horror. There's so many scenes in there that'll just have you kind of tiptoeing around, just asking yourself, I don't know what's going on. I don't get it, but I'm here.
Literally, this is just Oshinoko before Oshinoko.
Yo, what's poppin', everybody? It's the No Level Cap Podcast. We back once again with the crew talking about all the anime, all the gaming, all the nerd culture, none of the bullshit. Let me introduce y'all to my co-hosts. We've got the Black Daredevil and the secret weapon of No Level Cap, Terrence Flowers. What's going on, Terrence?
Things are good. I saw the Gran Turismo movie yesterday, and even though it's very much like a lot of just promotion in it, I mean, it's very much promoting Sony, Gran Turismo, and there's a lot of ads in the movie. It's actually a good movie. It's not bad. Is it like some critical darling or anything like that? No, but it's one of those movies where you go into it and you watch it and it feels good, even though you know what the outcome is going to be. But yeah, I think it was well done and worth at least checking out.
That's what I had heard. I had heard some people say that Gran Turismo was better than you thought it than they thought it would be, and better than it had any right to be. So
yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah,
I'll take that. We had Devin talk about Twisted Metal a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, like, that one. At some point, Sony got to start knocking these out of the park. So I'm glad we got one of them. I wouldn't have expected it to be Gran Turismo of all things.
Yeah.
Next, we got the living cartoon and the man with the golden voice, Rakeem Beck. What's popping, Rakeem?
Man, popping has been Armored Core. Came out Friday. It's a return to form to an old franchise that's been around for a long time. From Software has been known lately for their Dark Souls and Elden Ring series, Sekiro, things like that. And a return to one of their older franchises, it seems like it's been pretty positively received. And I have been enjoying just tinkering with the robots, like being a little kid again, playing with your toys, man, tweaking all the little parts, all the little weapons, coloring it, and making it look good. It's addictive. It's a very addictive cycle. Go on a mission, get your mech to fly right and move right and jump higher and try different weapons. It's been quite fun. So I've been on that for the last couple of days. Other than that, everything's been good. I'm ready to get into the topic today.
All right, that's what's up. Next up, we've got the Collective Collectors, the master of Twitch, Will Coleman. What's going on, Will?
Nothing, man. Just a bunch of work, catching up on a little bit of anime. I've been catching up on Seven Spellblades. I've been doing that, trying to get on that.
How far into Seven Spellblades are you?
I want to say I'm at episode 4.
Ooh, you're getting close. We'll talk after the show.
Get to the good stuff.
I think episode 6 is the right one. So, by the way, we said it before. If you hadn't checked it out, you should definitely check out Seven Spellblades. It is quite good. Lastly, we got the One Punch Man Master Combos, Devin Butts. What's going on, Devin?
Not much, man. Just another week. Beat Bomber Cyberpunk last week. Still playing that. Just saw they have a multiplayer mod that I saw today, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. I need it in my life right now. Actually, just been trying to try out some games in 2023 and see what I like. Coming up next, Sea of Stars, I think next week. So I'm getting ready for that. I'm gonna play the heck out of that, just like I did Chain Echo. So yeah, man, I'm just trying to see what 2023 got for me, man. And so far, I'm liking these games, man.
Okay. Of course, I'm Sage Ashford, the man who won't shut up. If you didn't know, No Level Cap goes live every Monday morning. We're on YouTube for video fans, but if you like the audio version, we're on Spotify as well. This week, we wanted to get back to the classic anime movie reviews. So now we getting into something, a little different, a little outside the norm, something a little irregular. We're gonna talk about Satoshi Kon's Perfect Blue, a film released in 1997 based on a book by author Yoshikazu Takeuchi. This is quite the film. I was not I got outvoted on this one. Everybody like just instantly voted for this, and I was like, okay, I'll see what they're talking about. So like, I was very curious to see what this movie was about because I mean, like, you see it, you go through like popular pop culture, and you've seen Perfect Blue make appearances in different things over the years, and it was like one of the films. It's not quite at the level of like a Ghost in the Shell or like an Akira or something like that, but it was still a pretty big movie back in the 90s and in the 2000s. So like I was interested to see what this film was talking about, even if I wasn't one of the ones that wanted to see it. And so like I'm very interested now to see what people thought about the movie now that I've watched it, because it was it's quite the film. Devin, what'd you think, man?
So this is actually a movie like you just mentioned. Like this one is kind of in the talks of pop culture realm. I've seen this on like a few Watch Mojo list for like, I think it was like thriller anime and like I think mature anime, something like it was. I don't know what the list were, but it was something along the lines of that. Yeah. And I was like, man, I'm gonna check this out, man. I never did. And I was like, man, I was like, we watching Perfect Blood. You bet. I'm not gonna lie, man. I really enjoyed this film. I mean, it's kind of in my realm. It's like thriller. It's a little tinge of horror, not a lot, but like horror in a sense of like, what's going on, like some psychological stuff
Yeah, I was
going
just gonna
on.
say psychological horror.
Yeah, psychological horror. First off, I love the animation style. I like that style that like Akira has. It's very similar to like Monster. This is something that's much more like adult, like just with its like presentation. And am I the only one that thought that the beginning was kind of similar to Macross? Like just with the pop idol like singing.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I can see where you got that from. Yeah.
I don't know if maybe that was like a trend with those 90s movies or whatnot, but that's the first thing that popped in my head. But yeah, this was a movie. Definitely some twists and turns. The ending, definitely, I did not see that coming. Definitely did not see that coming. It's like kind of a weird commentary on like a person wanted to try something different in their life, but it seemed like everybody else wants them to stay the same. Like, she did it for 21 and a half years. So she said she was 23. So she'd been that for like all of her life pretty much.
Well, I mean, like she probably got into it because like a lot of idols will get into it at like 12, 14, somewhere in there. So she probably did it for a good 6-7 years, like a long time for like any career. Like, I mean, like most people, they work, 30 years maybe, if you know lucky you get a chance to retire. So she did it like a third of somebody's normal career. She was just in there, and I mean, she finally just was like, hey man, I want out. I want to do something different.
Yeah. What was she mentioning then when she said she had given something like 21 and a half years of her life, like when she was telling them that she wanted to be an actress? What was that a reference to?
Probably just the idea of like just because even when you're not an idol, you like preparing to be an idol. So maybe that's some part of it too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just it's a ride, man. Like what you think, it's kind of like part of what you think is gonna happen with a certain character that you see throughout the whole movie. It's kind of true, but then they drop a bomb on you with something else, and it's like, wait a minute, I thought, so like commentary about, am I crazy? I'm seeing stuff, like what's going on? I like it. I like this movie. Like I said, I really didn't know what to expect because I never seen this, but I wanted to watch it. But man, this was a great, well animated, psychological, like thriller horror movie. I suggest if you like that type of stuff, man, like definitely check Perfect Blue out, man.
Okay. What would you give it?
I think I'm gonna give it an 8.5. Like the hour and 20 wasn't too bad. It actually didn't seem like too long overwatch. It seemed like it was just right there enough. The ending kind of had me. I gotta go back and look at the ending because I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe they were referencing something else. But yeah, I would give it 8.5. It was pretty solid watching. I was definitely invested the whole time. And if a movie has you like that, it's gripped you, then it's something worth watching.
All right, okay. Terrence, man, what did you think of the movie, man?
So I'll start off by saying, in the way that when we reviewed Ninja Scroll, and Rakeem, you said how, you watched this film as a kid and how it, shaped your perception of anime. This is that movie for me. For me, when I saw this on one of the premium satellite channels, like whether it was Encore, Stars, whatever at that time, I saw it when I was like a teenager, and of course at that time a lot of the themes that were in the movie went over my head, but the look of it and the adult content of it was what really drew me in, because I had never seen anything like it. Like up until that point, I had no idea that anime could be like that, that it could have that kind of one thing that really stands out with this movie that Devin touched on is the look of it, is the fact that it doesn't look at all like traditional quote unquote anime, or more like traditional in terms of how anime looks now, or even in the 90s how a lot of anime looked, is like the eyes were getting bigger. We were definitely getting to that point. In fact, they even showed that in the film itself. There was a lot of scenes that took place in like manga shops where they had like the Slayer style character with like the huge eyes and stuff like that. It was like direct contrast to the style that the movie had going on. Much like Devin, I agree that this movie there's a lot of commentary going on. You have like, there's multiple interpretations and social commentary going on here. It's like commentary on the music and entertainment industry, like the transition from being a musician into like acting, especially when you're like a child or a young actor, especially if you're a young woman. And you could definitely see this movie being showcasing how like the industry can just drag a young woman across the coals like that if they don't have anyone or like a team that's looking out for them. And, you know, as this movie showed, even your team won't even be in your pocket like that, or have like your best interest in mind. So it's commentary on that. This was commentary on parasocial relationships before this was really even discussed like that, like the fan obsession, even commentary on the internet. And it's funny seeing how young the internet is in this sense in the movie, how they show her like explain to her what URLs are, like how websites work. They had advertisements explaining how you can sign up and create your own web page and stuff like that. There is so much going on. One great thing about this movie is the main character, she's what you would call in a sense like an unreliable narrator, because the reality is blurring so much in the movie that you really don't know what's going on. It's like there's moments where it transitions from real life, then back to the TV set, then back to like the idol part of it where she's like on stage, and then you have like the persona dancing around who you find out later on is, you know, who it is. Yeah, man, there's so much I could say about this movie. I'm trying to keep it short, but it's much like Devin. This is definitely one of those films that's in my wheelhouse. And when I watched it as a kid, like I said, there was so much that flew over my head just because I didn't have that level of understanding of what the film was trying to communicate, nor did I really have any idea. I had no concept of those kind of subjects. And watching it now at 34 years old, it's like, man, I have a different level of appreciation for it. The direction is very well done. The score, like the music is good. Like there's definitely music in there that's very unsettling and keeps you on edge. The acting is really good. The art style. Yeah, it's crazy. A lot of times when we do these retro reviews, it can feel like we're trying to say like, oh, you know, you have to keep in mind that this was made for a certain time and everything. And I think this film is proof that just because it's older, that doesn't mean that it's irrelevant or the themes aren't still themes that we can talk about today. In fact, this film might be more relevant now than it ever was back then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like this movie, it's funny because this movie also was made before Stan the song. So even in that case, it's crazy how much this predicted where we are. Yeah. If you can't tell, I'm a big fan of this movie. Like watching it again, I thoroughly enjoyed it, much like Devin. I was gripped the entire time. And for me personally, I would give this film a 10 out of 10. Like, I feel like it is the type of movie where there's nothing quite like it. And I will say as a caveat, there are some scenes that they might be triggering for some, and, you know, use your discretion and use your own discretion. Of course, if that kind of stuff is uncomfortable for you, then that's fine. You can skip the movie. But I will say that I feel like the movie does it in a way where it's not meant to be like tantalizing. It's like very clearly they are showing it to, like, you can even see like the way that the characters in the movie themselves like responding to the scene. Like you see like the male gaze through them, and like the way that the producers and like her the people on her team like respond to it. Like it is not meant to be something that you're like supposed to get off to, or like
It's not salacious at all.
yeah, it's not salacious at all. It's not meant to be that way at all. And it's one of those things where if you are thinking about it that way, then maybe it's saying more about you than, you know, the film itself. So
You need to
Who
see
is it?
somebody.
yeah, but
Swear.
yeah, I'll wrap it up there. I think this is an excellent film and one that I would definitely recommend to any anime fan that is interested in this type of genre. I'll put it that way.
This movie is very much not my thing. Despite that, the artistry in the movie is pretty clear. Satoshi Kon put in the work and created a fantastic thriller movie that had me feeling like sick at some points and very curious throughout the whole movie of like, all right, well, where's this going? Like Terrence said, it covers a lot of stuff like the toxicity of fandom, the danger of parasocial relationships. It goes into detail on just how easy it is to get lost, reliving the past and trying to be something that you're not anymore. And then there's the dark, seedy underside of being a celebrity and how you're often just treated as like a product, something to be consumed. And in there, of course, the part that really keeps you pulled in for most of the movie, the part about like how blurry the line between what is and what isn't real can be, because there are moments where she's not sure, and like Terrence said, she's an unreliable narrator, and because she's not sure, you're not sure anymore. And so like there are several moments throughout the film where she's almost like disassociating, and she's like there's this one part where she's talking to Rumi and she's like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while, and Rumi's like, I was here yesterday. And the interesting thing about that is, because of how the film plays out, you don't know if she's lying or not. Very well, she could be like not lying. She could be like telling the truth, or she could be lying. And it could have been like a long time since the last time Mima saw her. You don't know. And so like the whole thing, because nobody else, like, because you have so many characters in the movie that are interested in lying, and in other characters that don't know what, like the main character doesn't know what reality is, it creates this weird feeling of you're just like, I don't know what the fuck is happening. And you just kind of have to just go with the story as it goes and just figure out like, okay, well, whatever story they're telling, I'm just along for the ride. There are a lot of moments in this that are reflective of both Japanese like fandom, but also like because of how fandom has globalized, it's reflective of like modern fandom just in general. Like there's some elements where, especially like, I know Keem saw it. I don't know anybody. I think Will also saw this, but like Oshinoko, where they talked about like the Japanese fandom and like how weird they can be around idols. And like that shit was very reflective, and it felt like, and like Terrence said, like this is very much a movie where sometimes the director is so forward thinking that even though it's a film from decades ago, it still feels just as good or just as important now as it did then. In fact, probably more so now than it was back then, because like I didn't. There were fans like that back then, but they were rare. Now it's like,
Yeah, exactly.
they kind of fucking everywhere now.
Yeah.
So like I don't like it. I was looking at it, I'm like, man, this is crazy. As far as like the let's say the strip club scene. Man, first off, question: what show would allow a graphic ass scene like that?
You know, I was wondering that too, because it was showing nudity as well, and I was like, how?
Yeah, I'm like,
maybe this is on like
happening?
Japan's equivalent of HBO, maybe. I don't know.
Now I will say that actually, I'm glad you brought that up. Like they do have, I will say, lowered restrictions for shows that air like really late at night. The problem is shows that air really late at night don't get very good ratings, because who the fuck is up really late at night? But I don't know, like whatever it was, I was just sitting, I'm like, God dang. And then like, I don't know, maybe this is just me. I was watching that scene and I was like, maybe because it showed like how easy it was to like show the difference between reality and like fiction and like what's actually happening. There were moments like during the strip club scene, I was horrified, and then they'd have the break and do the cut, and then it just has like these funny moments of like, oh man, you know, I'm sorry about this. Like the guy's like apologizing for like how awkward and weird the scene is. And then they go back to it and it's back being like, oh man, this is really fucked up. And then like the dude, they break again. Bro's like, oh man, I couldn't get my zipper down.
You could almost see that as like funny commentary on being an actor, where it's like you have to do that in and out, where it's like, oh, I'm not really like this, but then you have to go right back to it.
Go right back into it.
Yeah.
There's this, I mean, like And then the scene was just too much in general. That's the type of scene where if you filmed it in a movie now, you'd have people 5 years later talking about the movie and being like, I don't know if it needed to be all of that.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
The director did too
true.
much, and like, he paid for it.
He did.
But,
Yeah.
And then like the one scene that really stuck with me was that scene with the fish. And I think everybody has had moments like that, like in their lives, where like you've had, I don't know, a bad day or a bad week or a bad month, and it's just all these things that build, and it's just that one final thing that just pushes you over the edge, and you just can't take it anymore. And she fucking cracks. And like at first, I was like, she just, because she seemed like she was chill. She got into the car with the manager, and she was just chill for the whole. Like she was like, oh yeah, you know what's going on. And the manager, you could tell like when the scene happened, he was like, why did I sign her up for this?
That's exactly how he felt.
I fucked up. Why did I sign up for this? And then like she kind of like, he was like, hey, you good? And she had this response where she was like, yeah, what's good? And he was like, oh, but he still felt bad. And he like treated her to some food. But so I'm like, okay, well maybe she all right. And then she came home seeing the fish was dead. She was like, no, of course I'm not all right. I didn't want to do that scene, but what choice did I have? And that is reflective of like how actors sometimes, when you don't have the power, you can't veto scenes. You're just stuck with whatever they tell you got to do. And so she was like, oh, you know, we're going to write this scene. And the dude just, I don't know, it seemed like he took pleasure in writing some of the most effed up scenes possible. Like he was just like, oh yeah, you know, throw this in there. I'm like, why is this scene in here? Like, what's the purpose? And it's, oh, why not? I'm like, I guess, like, I don't know, like, I will say, and I will get into this a little bit more later, but I just thought it was like, it is a good film. Like, even though like the ending is kind of unsettling, and I do have questions about like exactly how she was fooled by the ghosts of her past, because like she thought she was seeing herself as a pop idol, but then you like see what's actually there, and I'm like, okay, snap the fuck out of it. Because like when she like was chasing old girl through the building, through that studio, and chasing her outside, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you gonna tell me nobody saw this and nobody could be like, hey, I don't know what you think you seeing, but you're not seeing that. Like, but I mean, like that comes with it. Like that comes with like thrillers where they want you to question what's actually real and what's not. So if I had to give it something, even though I didn't, it's obviously still not my type of film. I still give it a 9 out of 10. It's a very good film. Will, what would you give it? And Will, what do you think, and what would you give it?
Well, before I go ahead and tell you what I think of it, this is my second time with the film, because the first time I did it, I did a school project on it. I did a paper on it. So
wow.
yeah.
Damn.
I was like, I got plenty of movies in here to watch. She said, pick anything you want to watch and let's bring it back to class, talk about it, and relate it to what we're learning. And I was like, Perfect Blue sounds like a good way to go. Say what?
College or high school?
College.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, college. I ain't do it in high school because I didn't have my eyes on Perfect Blue yet, and it wasn't something that was on my radar at that time. But I had it, and I was like, why not give it a shot? But what I thought of the film is, I'm just like y'all. It's high on my list of films that I enjoy that are anime films. It's definitely high up there. Definitely, probably like, if I had to say for myself personally, it's definitely a top 5 film. I fuck with this movie heavily. I like it a lot. From every single perspective that you see, from how it just draws you in, has you thinking about what's really going on here, what's happening here. Is she really thinking this? Did that happen? Did this happen? Oh, did she really do that? Like, a lot of those scenes really stuck out to me, especially what Sage mentioned earlier with the whole, like, her getting that new scene and her man just like, I'm not letting you do that. He's just like, I don't want you to. She's like, I don't want you to do that. But her other man just like, look, they short on time. She got to go in there. We can't let that happen. And she's reading the script. She see this, but she's just like, you can kind of see it as she's going through it. Like, I don't think I should be here for this, but I'm here. So she has to take that. She has to go and take this scene, because if she messes around and say she can't, she letting them down in a way, you know. And on top of that, I think a lot of it also deals with the fact that she's so young. Like, she's like in her like 20s, in like her early 20s and so on. So she's like, I'm kind of obligated to do this, even though I've been doing this idol thing for a while and I want to be an actress. And now that I'm doing this, I can't just hop out now. I can't back out because I am an actress. That's what I'm telling myself. But over time, I keep seeing things that telling me, no, I want to be an idol again. She's having all these problems. Everything is like striking all at once. And the best way to put it is this, so I can try to keep this short. she really just started losing her sense of self, and it just started going into this paranoia fueled like psychosis. She started just losing her mind piece by piece every time something happened, especially like in the last bit of the movie when the paparazzi and stuff showed up. Right before the paparazzi showed up, and she went to her closet to get some fresh clothes to put on to answer the door, and she checked that bag, and she looked at that, and she was like, I recognize these clothes, but why are they in my room?
Hey man, they treated every movie always got the paparazzi looking the same. They had them dudes acting like animals. She had no idea what was going on. Like they just rang the doorbell. She opened the door and like 8 of them popped through. Like, what's going on? What you think of the murder? It's like I don't know. Like I just found out. Like chill out.
Like she just woke up. She just put on pants, and you at her door, and she's dead eyeing y'all. Like I don't know. He just died, and she just got the phone call and everything. And y'all are bugging me about it? Like, I know. I just got the news. Talk to somebody else on the street, please. But but I think it's a great movie. Great psychological horror. There's so many scenes in there that'll just have you kind of tiptoeing around, just asking yourself, I don't know what's going on. I don't get it, but I'm here. Just like you said, I'm here, but I don't know what's going on. Help. So if you're gonna watch it, if you're watching this, please go and find your way to it. I found my way to it. I own it. It's a very good movie. I give it about a 9.5 out of 10 because I really enjoy this movie. Like I will actually watch this a third time if necessary because it's just that good.
Okay. Hot marks all around. All right, Rakeem, what did you think, man?
Okay, so just like Terrence and Will, this is a film I watched in my youth. I definitely saw this movie actually the exact same way Terrence did on one of those premium channels as a teenager. And to this day, I couldn't remember much about this movie because I hadn't seen it in so long, except the ending because it was so outrageous. I never forgot that ending because like who could? And I don't necessarily want to say all of it, but basically like finding out her handler, the person who she's confiding in, has a dissociative personality disorder, and she becomes her, is a crazy perspective on that. And one thing, Sage, speaking to your point about the concept of why she didn't kind of get out of the illusion of who she was. I think what I liked about this movie is like, first off, if you watch it more than once, you get way more out of it. I feel like nothing in this movie was really wasted. It was always referencing something to come or something that happened before it and kind of circle back to it. It's kind of like Inception before Inception, way before Nolan got his hands on it. And the reason I think it was really effective, because all of these people, and one of these is going to go into the next question, so I don't want to get too far into it, but Mima, the main character, Rumi, her handler, and the stalker, Me-Mania, whatever. They never said his real name. Me-Mania.
We never saw his real name.
Which is also kind of referenced in real life now, like screen names more important than real names and shit.
Right. We'll just call him Stalker Coon.
Stalker. He ain't get no coon out of me. I know that. But anyway, all these people, there was a specific sentence in this early in the movie that if you pay attention to is like, I think it was referenced in the film she was starring in, was like people being possessed by the spirit of something inside of them. And I interpreted it as, and I think this is a great move for interpretation. You can interpret it in a lot of different ways. I interpreted it as her removing herself from the idol life, the spirit of that, what she was, infected these people in different ways. And Me-Mania, the stalker, he couldn't let go of his favorite idol, his possessiveness, his ideology of her perfection. He couldn't let that go to an obsessive degree to the point where he would kill for her, attack for her, do whatever for her, and lie on forums and things like that about who she wasn't. For Rumi, her handler, she was a failed idol. That was mentioned earlier in the movie as well, that she was a failed idol in a previous life. And then like seeing her go is kind of like her failing all over again. So that's why she was so close to her, and she wanted her to have a certain perspective and a certain vision. She didn't want her to leave idolization. And of course, the main character, Mima, that was her self-identity for so long. And like losing your self-identity after a long time, for anybody, I'll give you an example for me. Like I was in chorus my whole life. I was in chorus from the time I was in 3rd grade to my last year in undergraduate as college. That's like 13, 14 years singing. Then I just stopped, and it was the weirdest like area of my life ever. Like I'll never forget that. Like it felt like a void of losing chorus. Although, I could always just go to church choir, which I eventually did go back to church choir in my hometown. But like losing yourself in that to that degree can cause issues and perspectives. You see it a lot of time with older people, like my father, for example, when he retired from the police force, he kind of lost himself for a little bit. He had to find hobbies and find purpose. He tried a whole bunch of different things. He got into a whole bunch of different things until he found kind of his happiness. And then he got himself back into church more and got more involved. And that really was what he found his purpose eventually. And for Mima as a character, she lost her purpose by being an idol and tried to transition to this new life as an actress. And it felt like nothing was going right. And where this film like hooked me, and I can say this, watching it a second time, it's better than I remember it. Where it hooked me was, my favorite part was when she was doing her work on the show, and the show was blending into her real life and her dreams, and she couldn't tell the difference. And we couldn't tell the difference as the audience. And things started blending together so much, and the perspective was changing so much. Like Sage said, you were along a roller coaster. You just along for the ride. You just had to hold on and figure it out. And I absolutely loved it. Like, this film had me captivated from top to bottom. I felt like the social commentary was so much more better written than I would have expected. I didn't expect this movie to be as good as I thought it would be. So personally, for my rating, I'm gonna give this a 10 out of 10. Like, I got to. I was captivated the entire time. I think the social comedy still works. I think if you watch it again, you'll like it more. There's still things in the film that like correspond together. Her relationship with her, idol friends and what happened with them, like being more successful after she left, and the film industry as a whole. And of course, Terrence, and I've taken acting classes and things like that. It was kind of cool to see the inside of how the intricacies and problems of being an actor were kind of brought to the front as well. And it kind of, being an actor is glamorized. Most people think being an actor is a big deal. So like kind of seeing behind the curtain of the scumminess and what happens when the people who are supposed to protect you don't protect you and don't look out for you the correct way, what can happen. I love this film. The ending is still silly no matter how I look at it, but I still like the ending. It was the one thing I never could forget about this film. This ending is so ridiculous. And audience, I'm not going to spoil all for you. I hope if you watch this review, check this film out, Perfect Blue. It is quite an ending. It is quite a thriller. It's going to keep you at the edge of your seat, and you're going to love it.
How did she survive that jump?
God and a whole bunch of trash bags.
Are you talking
Trash.
about Mima when they fell down? Like the first jump when she jumped from her building?
Not the second jump. The garbage out bullshit, but I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
The first jump where she jumped where it kind of fell really. More than
I
jump.
know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Fuck, she survived that.
I think the way that she fell, it kind of braced her a little bit, and it's also one of those things where you could argue once again the whole reality blurring kind of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I want to say something real quick. I think I'm gonna change my score, man, because actually Rakeem brought up something that I thought about the movie and I forgot to mention. Was you mentioned the movie, and I think Terrence mentioned Inception. Somebody else mentioned Inception. But I also thought about the movie Butterfly Effect. That the scenes where she kept waking up, we saw that like 3 times. Her waking up out of bed, and then like blurring the show. Like it's like when they were in the show, they were using like her name, like that last scene where she was in like the holding little room, and they were like talking, and she was like, "Yes, I am a idol," and she used her name. Then they showed it again, but she was like using the lines from the show. And like I said, it that kind of gave me Butterfly Effect vibes where Ashton Kutcher just kept waking up like the same thing, just like, okay, what's reality? What's going on? Are things changing? Even like Me Mania. At one point, I actually thought he wasn't real. That when she starts seeing,
that too.
When she starts seeing him like on set,
and then they referenced it in the show.
The show, and then like she looks back, he's gone, and then I'm like, at first I thought it was real, but then when they started showing, it was like about maybe halfway through, a little over half. I'm like, when it was like, wait, and I thought she killed the dude. I'm like, wait, so is this just like a manifestation of like her, like a nasty side of her, like that's what she's seeing or something, but found out he was real. So that was kind of cool how they kind of thread the needle of bringing you back and forth for like what is real. And that's why I just had to kind of mention that. I think I'm gonna actually give this a 9.5 because this is done like so well with like a lot of big budget movies like, you know, big actors have done. And like again, I'm a big horror guy, psychological horror thrillers, all this stuff. Like how this envelops you to make you feel all these things like you on your seat. Like this is what like really good like movies of that sort or that genre does. And for this to be like, you know, it's an anime movie, but it's really good. It does that so well. I just thought about that when he mentioned it. I'm like, I got to give this a better score. The only reason I probably wouldn't give him a 10 is because of that stupid. I'm gonna lean over and grab the wig and just like, you didn't see that big piece of what? I'm like, all right, now it was getting good until she did it. I'm like, she just like.
And she was alive too. I'm like,
What's
okay.
wild was she didn't die. That was wild.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like you didn't see, like you just leaned so casually over.
Well, her not seeing it is fine because she's like clearly not.
Yeah, she's not all the way there, but I'm like, that's sharp.
That's
sharp.
very sharp.
Like,
I got 3 things I got to bring up before we get to the next question.
Go ahead, brother.
One, movie is very, like Keem said, the movie is everything that it does is very purposeful. Even that first song that they sing, I was listening to the lyrics or looking at the lyrics, and the lyrics just kept talking about how I'll be a perfect little angel in your heart forever. And I'm like, well, that's not how people work. There's no such thing as a perfect little angel. But like, that's the kind of like lie that you have to sell to the people to get them to like become such a fan, like to become, because I mean, like fan is really just short for fanatic. And that's how you get people to be that obsessed and like buy all the merchandise and show up to all the shows and shit like that. You got to tell them a lie. And like that, even the song is like, okay, well, we gonna tell you this lie. What's up, Will?
You saying all that just kind of clicked in my head. I'm just like, damn. Oshinoko did the exact same thing. Except it kind of went from like first person of her talking about how she has to tell that lie.
Like literally, this is just Oshinoko before Oshinoko.
It's Oshinoko without all the silly elements that you need today to sell an anime.
Yeah.
The other thing, well, one thing that's kind of minor. What's up with them weirdos that just ruined that concert for no reason? It's like they're just there to start shit.
The hoodlums. The hoodlums.
The random hoodlums.
Man, that's a perfect name for it. Just hoodlums, bro.
Throwing cans and
they came to that concert like, I don't want peace. I want problems. Always. I want the problems the whole concert.
I got another question. Was it that I noticed there was like these group of guys that weren't those hoodlums that just were always like talking about her, and it would show up at different parts of the episode. Did y'all notice them too? Like it was the exact same. I think it was the same fans over and over again.
It was the exact same fans of the group Cham. They were the exact same fans, and they were. I think they were kind of like almost like a small little linchpin in the story to an extent, to where they are like, we gonna see how this works minus Mima being in the group. So you get to kind of see the progression of that and how they feel about it.
Yeah.
Because they're like your normal fans compared to who Mania is.
Yeah. Will has it. You hit it on the head. That's exactly what I was going to say is like what they were saying is pretty much the type of commentary you see online. When people like comment on certain tweets about people and everything.
They're like the cynical fans that always got some shit to say. Yeah. That's who those 3 were. And I mean, like, even they was like, hey, man, what's ruining this show? It's like, hey, man, who you to tell me what to do with this show? Like, I can tell you can't be throwing cans at somebody. Get out of here.
Hey, me, Mania was like, I got something for y'all, man.
He ain't had nothing for them. He got pieced up is what he had.
Well, he did, but didn't want to get killed. The one, the green.
He did.
Not that I remember.
He got
in the paper. He got ran over.
Devin is right. He was in the paper.
That's right.
He get killed. He got run over or something. What?
Yeah, he got ran over.
So Mania got it.
I don't think they showed that though.
They didn't show him getting killed, but they showed the paper.
Yeah, they showed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and that's why she had the dream about getting ran over.
Yeah. Because you even know when she was looking out the window on the train, like she saw her, and then like she got hit, or like it just like bam.
Oh
right.
Yeah.
I think they referenced multiple times.
Oh, okay.
She ran out. She ran out in front of that truck, got hit in her dream or whatever it might have been, and woke back up. But then when you think about it, that tied right back to the damn end of the movie.
It did.
It definitely did. And this is one last thing before we move on to the next question. Okay, people kept dying, right? Like
a
lot.
I think
Oh,
people
wow.
were dying. I'm not sure.
Yes,
They
We'll
was
say
out.
And so, like,
we're definitely dying.
If so, some of the people that was dying, why
They
did you
were
keep
deep.
making this show? Because like
Hey,
the
man.
producer died, or like the
Yeah.
main writer died.
Man,
And
right.
I guess they killed the main actor after the show was over. I think.
The main
Am I
actor.
tripping? Like
Man.
the main dude, like the dude that had the most graphic death?
Oh, no. He was the
like
photographer.
He's a
police officer.
photographer.
That was a photographer.
Was he? Oh,
Yeah, that was
Oh,
a photographer.
That was the photographer.
I thought he
Yeah.
was just watching the movie. I thought that was the dude that was like the main actor.
Nah, he was.
No,
No,
that
that
was
was
the
the
photographer.
photographer,
Yeah,
man.
he was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You talking about when he got the pizza?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the photographer. Yeah.
Man,
That was the
they got
photographer,
man.
bro.
That dude died horrible. I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and he got caught slipping too, because he was like, a homegirl came over there, dropped the pizza, and he was like, "Oh, you a weird kind of pizza person, I bet." And like, I was like, "Yeah, it's about to be up for you." And she, oh my god,
Man, she had a
Leaned
calling
forward
card.
and she said, "Ah."
she did.
Yeah.
I was and had the blood looking like something out of an episode of Bleach. Dude was just, it was everywhere. I'm like, it's like a packet of ketchup. I'm like, oh my god, it
Wow.
going in on that man.
Yeah, I mean, as to I guess why, I kind of had that same question too. Is like, maybe you could just argue that at this time, like the time of the movie and everything, like they weren't taking that kind of stuff serious. It's like the way I see it is that now we've just gotten to the point, barely just gotten to the point where the subject of like stalkers and like people trying to interfere with like productions and whatnot, just rabid fans doing these crazy things. Whereas like back in 1997 when this movie came out, that wasn't quite, at that point.
Her manager opened a letter bomb,
And they didn't take
Oh,
it
yeah, he
seriously.
did.
and
Oh,
he
yeah,
was
he
like,
did.
"Yeah, you can't call the cops for this. I'm fine." I'm
Yeah,
like,
I was thinking the same. I'm
what?
like, what?
Ain't no way.
Also, wasn't it Rumi that also said that it wasn't that bad? He'll. Like, what do you mean it
Yeah.
wasn't that bad?
think
That
she
was
did say that, yeah.
explosives.
you right.
She
You
pretty
right.
much
It
did,
was
but
her
like
doing.
blase him. She did was like, oh, he gonna be just
Yeah.
fine.
They
I
definitely
was
swept
like,
a
that
lot of that stuff just under the rug when I'm like, no, these
Yeah.
are clear
On the
red
video.
flags. What are you all doing?
I don't
Could've
just
been on
open
the
my
phone
mail.
video.
Oh, I got my Amazon package. Boom! Like that's just not like. I don't just like, man, I'll be all right. No, I'm calling somebody.
I'm calling everybody. Please. Oh,
That
you
was
can
wild.
tell everybody. I'm telling everybody. I'm terrified. Like,
Exactly.
what the fuck? All right.
Ah.
So I guess we gotta ask, who's the worst villain? So you got Rumi,
Yeah.
and I mean, like, it's kind of easy, but it's kind of not. You got Rumi, who was just, gaslighting, and she was going out here. She was the screw drive handler or whatever. I don't like the screw drive killer. And then you got Me Mania, who was just like a whole monster and a creep. And
Extreme.
like I don't know. Like I'm not torn, but I'm torn. If that makes sense.
I get what you're saying.
Will, what do you think? Who do you think was the worst villain?
Okay, you just said it. I was literally like torn between them because the first time I watched it, I was like, man, he is screwed up. But then the ending came, and I was like, you? So, and like I really was like that when she looked in the mirror at it, and I was like. But the second time I watched this and kind of gotten a lot more of the context and the details behind a lot of things, and I started tying these little strings together. I ain't gonna lie to you. That's got to be Homegirl. It's her. I'm sorry, but the way this worked and the way this started out, we're gonna start like a little bit from the top and just say, hey, when she found out about that whole Mima's room site and Rumi set all that up for her with the computer and everything, and she was slowly reading down that list, reading down that whole blog, just like, oh, I did this, and they like, oh, whoever did this knows me so well. And then she was just like on that last one, and it was the most recent thing she did, and she just like, who in the hell is following me this closely to write this?
I ain't gonna lie.
Who knows?
That's another one of them like things Terrence talked about. They swept it under the rug because I would have been on the phone with the cops immediately. Like, hold on, I'm being followed.
I would have been.
I'm being
I swear I would
stalked.
have been
What
on
the
it,
fuck
bro.
is going on?
What's crazy is because that was so early in the internet, I feel like they wouldn't have known really how to handle it.
Yeah.
Very true.
You right.
Very true.
You right.
You
That's
right.
a
You
great
right.
point.
Yeah, you right. But Rumi was something serious, and on top of that, with me tying up the knot with like knowing that she the one doing all this goddamn blogging. She doing this. And then we got to the point where we seen Me Mania in his room, and all them pictures started talking to him, and he was just going in, and I was just like, he ain't talking to who he think he talking to. He talking to fucking Rumi.
I had to connect dots on that too.
I was like, he talking to her, and that's why he out here shaking everybody under the sun.
Terrence made another really good point. Like it's so early in the internet times because she, like the way that was being done, like the way that diary was being written. No fucking way could you get away with that today. You can't write a diary talking trash about the set that you on and the producer you're working with and the writer and the photographer. You can't do that. That's like careers, like that would kill your career. So like they would be on your ass immediately. Like, why'd you write that? Why'd you say it like this? She could have had way more mild criticism and they'd still be on her ass. Like that's the only way she was able to get away with that is because the internet was as old as it was. Because like today you wouldn't.
Yeah, today you're not getting away with none of that. But just to go ahead and give it to you straight, Rumi was truly like just flat out nasty, bro. Like flat out nasty, and it's also from her having that dissociative personality disorder. Her having that really added to her. Like she was truly in her head. So I ain't gonna lie to you. Sometimes I feel like we weren't even really in Mima's head like that. We were sometimes in Rumi's head. There's a few times where I feel like maybe we might have been in her head seeing what we doing. We seeing through some of this stuff through her eyes. Because you seen how she pieced up y'all seen how she pieced up the photographer, jabbed him in his eye, jabbed him in the dick a couple times, and then gave him the meanest shaking in front of the projector.
Really got it, bro.
I
said, my God, I was like, holy shit. I audibly was like, holy shit, like what the fuck's going on?
I'm just like,
it was too late.
Yo. I'm like,
he had no plan or nothing.
He didn't. He was a victim from day one.
Rakeem, what do you think? Who's the worst villain to you?
Man, this was a hard one at first for me because when I first saw Me Mania, you see him very early in the movie, and he's clearly like looking at it now. He's kind of the red herring of the movie.
Yeah,
like he's obviously creepy. Like his face
is
like deformed. His teeth are messed up. His eyes are super wide. Like they're intentionally drawing attention to his face, his how he looks.
If I could make one criticism of the movie, that was the one thing I didn't like. Like they were just so, because like not on like the two characters that are the most deformed or shown as deformed in the movie are the bad guys, and I'm like, I don't know about that. That kind of said some uncomfortable shit. Because like Rumi also a lot of times they would draw her almost off model. Her eyes would be out to here and shit for some reason. I'm like, why are you drawing her like that? And it's almost as if like trying to telecast to you like, hey, these are the bad guys. But go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed that, but it's kind of hard to argue against Rumi because she was so close to her the entire time, and then all the murders, taking over her personality, influencing Me Mania to do things for her, and like basically she was the mastermind behind the whole thing. And when you have such intimacy with someone and you manipulate them, and on top of that, kill a whole bunch of people in the process, I can't really. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get mad at the henchman, but I gotta get mad at Lex Luthor at the end of the day. That's the real villain.
Yeah. That's a fair point.
You're right. Fair point.
I guess the argument I would make for Me Mania, if anything, is that's kind of the more common villain. Like Rumi in real life, you did have a person kind of sorta like Rumi with Selena back in the day.
Oh yeah.
If
her
you
manager,
think about that, the manager, like you kind of had that back in the day, but that's like one example. It's countless Me Mania type dudes out there.
Did that happen before this movie came out?
Before,
yes.
Good question.
Okay.
I think that was in like the early 90s or something like that.
I was gonna say because man, if that'd be crazy if that way.
I swear that'd be crazy.
Movies like a freaking profit.
I feel like Kojima with the whole like the country was torn apart by some kind of disease with Death Stranding, and then COVID happened, and he was like, "Look, when I wrote Death Stranding 2, I had changed the plot. I don't want no predictions this time. Can't happen no more." But yeah, like Me Mania is kind of like more realistic. You have guys out there like that are just like fucking creeps, and like they just get detached and think that they own a person just because they like them a lot. And like the fact like that, and I mean like even the scene where he like And it's this how you know he was a creep. Like, he didn't know any better because he was just
Nah, he was trying to.
hell no, because like he tracked, like he was. The murder thing is one thing because he's told to murder, but he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get mine first." Like, nah, hell nah, bro, you a whole monster. And like, but on the flip side of that, and this is why I guess I got to give it to Mima, is just because like, oh, not Mima, but Rumi. This is why I guess I got to give it to Rumi, is because Mima got Me Mania up out of here easy. She was like,
She
was
did.
like, oh, please, no, grab that hammer, pop, and then that was it for him. Clocked him on out of there. He was like, fell over, and it's like, all right. But now when she fought Rumi, that was a fight. She was fighting for her life, got stabbed a couple of times, had to jump off 2 different buildings and shit. It's like, oh fuck. Like she was that took work. And then also, yeah, of course, all the things y'all said about like, oh, I had to like really think about how badly she went out of her way to gaslight this poor girl into thinking that reality wasn't reality, and that she was like a tarnished woman just because she acted in a fucking film or TV show or whatever. Like, I guess it was a lot of that. Like, so she really is and then like, other than the dude that clearly Me Mania, I guess, ran over, did Me Mania kill anybody else?
I don't think so.
Well,
It's unclear. It's unclear who killed the producer, but I'm assuming that was Rumi. It had to be.
Yeah,
I that is true.
Rumi.
Yeah.
Are you talking about
you talking about the writer?
The writer,
yeah. Oh, the writer?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The way he went out was so fucking sad, bro, because he kept hearing that music. He didn't know where it was coming from.
Next time you see it, he was... as soon as he heard the music, he was like, anybody around here? I'm like, the whole black man horror senses kicked in, because I was like, yeah, it's up for you, buddy. I said it out loud, too. I was like, yeah, it's up for you, buddy. And sure enough, the next time you seen him, he was in the elevator, just slumped. Eyes missing and everything. I'm like...
The first sign was him ripping off the... I forgot what was written on the note.
It was a sign for the show.
Yeah, it was, and it had blood in it and everything. It's like, that's the first red flag right there. It's like, I would have been out already. I guess
bro.
He was probably used to that sort of thing, so he just kind of shrugged it off. Maybe
it's like,
he got those kind of notes before. So
I swear,
at the
this
end,
is
he
not
was
shake
like
it off.
Jeepers Creepers victim.
Exactly.
Missing eyes and shit. I'm like, yeah, it's up for you. I'm sorry. You should have thought about this. So yeah, I mean, I guess I got to go with Rumi. Devin, who would you say?
Oh man, I was gonna think about maybe we could add a third one, possibly her manager, but I in some ways he could be seen as a villain a little bit, but I think I gotta give it to Rumi.
I kind of agree with you, because there's this part, because you like remember the scene where he like felt so terrible about what was going on, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna treat you," and I was like, "Okay, well, I guess he gonna look out for her going forward." But then, like, nah, he didn't. Like, right before he died, he was talking to Rumi. He was like, oh, yeah, I got this great new part. It's going to be awesome. I mean, it's a few smutty scenes, but hey, man, you got to do what you got to do. And that was the last thing you heard from him. And then the next time you see him, he was slumped over there, too. I'm like,
he was slumped over there with goddamn Me Mania.
I was saying he was asleep. It was a lot of sleeping in this movie, boy. A lot of all around. But yeah, he probably could have been like a third villain, but yeah. So the way they do it is like when they show Me Mania like immediately, and it's like, oh, him, right, officer, him.
There he is.
He's the red herring.
It's like, and like Say said, I mean, I know it was done on purpose and it was for the intent of the movie, but they got him looking dense. He just looked dark and dank. Like he like, yeah, man, I got some devious deeds, man. He's just like, he got her like at an angle where she's like a little
like a little figurine.
Yeah, like the little wind up box thing, and he just like, man, like I'm like, man, like. From the jump, they just make, because I honestly I thought he was gonna go like do something wild to those dudes in the beginning. I thought he's finna go stab somebody or something then, but he just went over there and called the fade. And then either him or Rumi. I'm assuming Rumi probably had him. I don't know who ran over the dude, but one of them did.
I think Me Mania did that himself, and he wasn't asked to do it.
I think so.
He just did that.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I got something for you. You and your boys beat me up. Bet. I got some.
Beat up this 4 wheels of death.
Yeah, but I gotta give it to Rumi, man, because it's just like you didn't even think that. You honestly thought that was the one person in Mima's corner, because she was like, I don't want you to do this. You know, when she did the scene, she got up and was crying. The manager looked at her, she left. And then when Mima got in the car, she was like, where's Rumi? He's like, oh, she had to go to a meeting for me. You know, yeah, she went to a meeting. She's meeting me Manny. It was like, hey man, write this and then say this, and then I'm gonna go kill this dude. And she was just really the mastermind behind the whole thing. Like the scene where me Manny attacked her, and all of a sudden Rumi just so conveniently pops up. Oh, you look and she didn't react like what happened to you? Like your clothes turn off, you like almost naked. She didn't react like what's going on. She's like, are you good? You look tethered. I'm like, all right, if I saw like one of my friends like that beat up, I wouldn't be like, hey man, you doing all right, man? Like, I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? Like,
so now it's like, oh, I'm gonna take you home. I'm like, oh, I'm taking you to the cops. You gotta get some help.
Yeah, so it's like, and also I noticed when she was driving her home, she said, I'm gonna take you to Mima's room. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, when she said that made my heart sink. I was like, what's going on here?
And I mean, maybe I'm looking too deep in this, but her name is Rumi. The room, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too deep into this, man. Like Mima's room. But yeah, she just, and she was just crazy, man. Like when you finally see what's going on, she's just like, okay, so she just, all reality is gone. Like she's just not here right now, you know.
She definitely went there when I seen her like show up in that damn idol outfit, and I'm like, if you don't get this, it looks like it's about to pop off you right now. If you don't take this shit off immediately, what were you thinking?
I like how they do like this is why I also say what I said earlier about how like this is doing what like big films are doing. This was like how the shooting and stuff is done. The in between showing her, she's prancing as you see her prancing, like she's skipping to my loo. But when you see the reflection, she's like sweating. She's like, like, oh, because I'm like, wait a minute, this big sister moving.
It's like cueing you into like the actual reality of what's going on.
Right.
Because for some reason. Yeah, go ahead, say.
That was the part that I liked. The fact that they finally was like, okay, well, now we getting towards the end. We got to bring you back into reality a little bit and let you know what's actually happening. And so, like, you would get to see glimpses of like Rumi as herself instead of like what Mima was seeing. And so, like, yeah, you did see like the costume, and it doesn't really fit at all. And you see her like running, and she's like covered in sweat and really like booking it after. And you like, oh, okay, this was really going on. Cool.
Yeah. Like, I was like, this big sister moving, man. She is like, because like they show her, she just prancing live, like, but they show her, she's booking it, man. Like, but yeah, it's just, man. Also, who out here making umbrellas with the dadgum Excalibur on the end of it?
I say, where did she get the goddamn umbrella from? The Penguin? She was so ready to like, I got this. I'm take you out.
Man, they did used to make those umbrellas pretty sharp.
Man,
in '97.
I don't know about that, sharp, man.
I don't know. I mean, for this film, you know, you could argue that maybe they played it up a little bit, but I do know that they still
it used to be pretty
back
sharp.
Then they did used to make those umbrella ends really sharp. I think now they go more toward
with
plastic.
the metal tip, but now it's more plastic.
I remember when I was growing up, they had the plastic ones, and it would be like not even a pointed end; it'd be like a flat end. And then she did not have that; she had a sword. She had Penguin's weapon. I'm like, get the fuck out of here!
I was just, I gotta get, because she had the most body counts, and I mean, technically, if anybody that Me Mania killed, it was because of her. Like, she's taking advantage of this overly crazed fan that he's out here doing nonsense, but she sees that and takes, you know, well, I can get him to do my little dirty work and stuff like that. I want him to write this blog for me. You know, I'm gonna go set up the internet of the house. So it's just like. Yeah, she was the mastermind behind everything. Like, you can say, oh, this. I mean, he was doing too much as well, obviously, but she was literally there the whole time, portraying herself as like, I'm in your corner, I got your back, I'm trying to tell you what's best for you.
To like stab you in the back,
man. Like, yeah, that was wild. Like I said, when I thought about it, the little things she was saying, like when that letter blew up, she said, "Oh, that's just you'll be all right." Like,
I didn't think about that till you said it.
What? It exploded. Like, I opened it. Oh, what I got? Oh, exploded.
Oh, boy, down here like this.
The manager said I'm fine, so I guess that was part of it too.
I'm like,
I got one more question, and then I'm gonna ask Terrence who you think the real villain is. But like, where did Mima get all that strength from? Because she choked the hell out of Rumi. I was about to pop out and everything. off me. I'm like,
I
God
ain't gonna
damn,
lie
what
to
you get all this
I
strength
think
That,
that
from?
was
maybe
fight or
that's like a
flight.
Fear
fighter.
and adrenaline.
Yeah,
I
like
think that
adrenaline,
might have been
fight or
fight or
flight kind of
flight.
thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
She definitely fought it out better than anybody that Rumi killed before that. Because like
Definitely.
everybody else just got caught slipping, and she just stabbed the hell out of him. And Mima was like, "Weave," and then just started like fighting back. She fought the hell out that chick. I was like, "Hey, you earned this dub." She definitely earned that dub.
Also,
You know what's so good about that whole part when she started choking her? You can see the facade slip when she
Yep,
chokes.
that
her.
was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
See that?
because it chokes her.
So when I
Yeah,
seen
it chokes
I
her
was
out
like,
of it. Yeah.
Yeah, she just
Also,
like,
I
yeah,
want
you gotta
She
listen
broke
to
kayfabe.
when Wow. So
Demon said, "Back to life, back to
to
reality."
reality.
one quick thing, when Mila hit Me Mania with the hammer, he wasn't dead then, I don't think, right? I think Rumi went and finished it, didn't she?
probably.
Yeah,
But I'm
you
pretty
could
sure-
argue that. Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
The
You could argue
implication
she-
was that she clocked that dude in the head so hard that it was just up for him.
Yeah. But there was no blood on him. He didn't draw blood. He had blood on him when they showed him the second time.
You are right.
You might
Yeah.
be right.
Yeah,
I had
he
to go
did
back
not
and
draw.
look.
I think she was
didn't
like,
draw
oh,
blood.
Yeah.
He was also
You didn't
missing
get
one
the
of
job
his
done.
eyes.
Yeah. So she went like, oh, you didn't get the job done, but I got it.
You have failed me. She just took that man out the game. Terrence, I guess you gonna tie it up. I mean, you gonna like go ahead and give us a unanimous answer, man. Who's the real
I was
villain
gonna
of the
say
movie?
tie it up unless I split into multiple people. I don't think I can make it a tie. No.
Oh, no.
Funny enough.
Wait a minute.
Devin kind of stole my idea, but he didn't quite go in the direction I thought he would. Because I was thinking about a third villain in this, and really it's the industry. Like the way that the industry is shown in this movie, you could almost argue that it creates both villains. Like Rumi with her whole fail idol thing going on, that who knows, like she may have gone through some of the very same stuff that Mima went through, and thus she created this whole persona to like disassociate from like the trauma that she may have suffered back then. And then you have Me-Mania, who I wouldn't necessarily call him a victim of the industry in the same way, but more so
They take advantage.
Say it again.
They take advantage of people like that.
Yeah. Like just yeah, you're right. Yeah, the industry does take advantage of people like that. They have just this fever for these people, and they put them on such a platform that and the industry takes advantage of that. It's like, oh,
people
you
like
like
that
this
need
person?
help, but they not getting help. What they getting is like, hey, give me your money.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, in that case, I would say that there is like a third villain here, because the industry, I mean, the way that it treated Mima throughout this movie, the fact that regardless of her team, the fact that anybody was just okay with this kind of stuff being like putting this young woman through these kind of scenes in this show, like that's just so crazy. And then also the photographer taking advantage of it, just so much stuff that, you know, it still happens to this day. Even though, you know, you have a lot more actresses and people in the industry speaking out about it, and that's very helpful, it's still stuff that it does very much happen. So even just the scene, the strip club scene is like that nowadays, you would definitely have like not only would it not be shown like that, but you'd have like intimacy coordinators, you'd have all sorts of stuff. And
that was the other thing, because like after that scene happened, I was like, okay, well now she needs to go talk to somebody and like maybe get like her mind right, because like because that was a lot going on, and like it was very realistic, even though it was like acting still a lot.
Yeah.
But instead they just cut to a shot of her like by herself with her head down, and she just got to figure it out by herself. I'm like, yeah, fuck this.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely at that point, how the industry didn't care about, because it isn't even just a Hollywood thing. I mean, this movie is taking place in Japan, so it's like the Japanese entertainment industry is very much guilty of these things. But yeah, if I'm going back to like the two people like Me-Mania and Rumi, I mean, you all really have made the case for Rumi. At first, I was going to say Me-Mania just because Rumi, she in some ways can be viewed as a victim in terms of how the circumstances led her to that point, and how she may have built up this disorder to deal with everything that she went through. But, you know, of course, that's still not an excuse. And yeah, I mean, you all have clearly laid it all out that she was the mastermind behind everything, that at every step of the corner. Excuse me. She seemed like she was in Mima's corner the entire time, but she really wasn't. It'd be one of those things where it's like it'd be your own people doing it to you.
Yeah, it'd be your own people.
Yeah, so I really don't have much more to add in that regard. I do think that Rumi is the true villain just because, and you know what? I'm glad that at the end of the day they didn't make it a straightforward thing where it was just clearly Me-Mania. Like he was a red herring. Like he did do some things, of course.
Interestingly, if I'm not mistaken, I think in the novel Me-Mania was the main villain and Rumi was also just another like almost like she was in the same problem and shit.
Yes, he was the main villain. They kind of built him up to be more like somewhat of like a Jason Voorhees almost.
Yeah,
in a
like he
way.
was kind of unstoppable. Like
Yeah,
he
like
could
they
take a
kinda
lot of
built him that
punishment and
way.
shit, and it just didn't
Yeah,
matter.
like he could take an ass beat, no doubt about it. And it was actually more or less him affecting Mima and Rumi at the same
Right.
time because Rumi was really in her corner in the book, whereas they took a little bit of liberty here to kind of fuck with you.
Well,
Interesting.
this is a very different ending.
Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
similar to I can't think of what particular Stephen King film it is, book it is, but where the book had one ending and the film did something completely different, and a lot of people actually like the film ending more than the book ending because it didn't go the straightforward direction.
Yeah, this is
so
less predictable.
yeah, and so yeah, I do like the fact that she ended up being the villain of this movie just because, it's very easy to have somebody who looks kind of creepy. And I guess that's the whole thing is like stranger danger. It's like, you see somebody like that. It's like, oh, yeah, that's obviously the guy to be on the lookout for. But sometimes it's the person that's the closest to you or someone who just looks completely normal. That's the one that's going to stab you in the back. And so, yeah, I'll give it to Rumi as the real villain of this movie.
I will say this. I know you said that Rumi like probably had a life like Mima. I'd actually counter that. I think Rumi failed, like her career as an idol. It just
she did
failed,
fail.
and she was jealous of Mima's success, and like because they were still an up and coming group. Even after she left, the group started doing even better because it was just like the time was finally starting to pay off. And I think a lot of that because she did kind of look like an older Mima, kind of sort of. And like, I guess a lot of it was just in her mind, like, how could you give this up? This was the only thing that you ever wanted, not realizing that what she really means is this is the only thing that I ever wanted. And I'm upset that you're giving this up because, like, how dare you? Like, this is such a privilege. It's kind of like, I don't know, this kind of gets under my skin too. Like, when I see actors or when I see, like, I'm gonna say like Nikola Jokic in the NBA, they like, oh man, he just treated like a job. And I'm like, man, you know how many people across the world would love to be a fucking basketball player with your level of talent, and they would treat it like it's like a passion. And he just like, nah, my passion is riding horses. I just play basketball because it pay me a nice little check. Like, I think a lot of people can identify with the idea of like, man, how dare you just give up on something that people love and would love to do so much. So like I did kind of like that as an additional aside.
I think that's a valid interpretation. Yeah, I think that's very valid. Like once again, it goes back to how this film has multiple interpretations and things that are going on that there's just a lot going on. This is a great film. Yeah. Great film, great conversation.
Man, it is a great film, and this was an awesome conversation, actually. I think that wraps it up for this week. If you like that, I need a few things from you. I need you to do us a favor. Hit that subscription button on YouTube. I need you to follow us on Twitter. Follow us on TikTok. Don't just check us out. Tell your friends. Tell your family. Tell everybody. You can tell everybody. I don't know why that's in my head so much. And do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace.